Hi everyone, welcome back to Trees and Turtles. My name's Imogen and in today's video I'm explaining how you can use anxiety to your advantage. If you're not already subscribed, make sure to do that, give this video a thumbs up, follow me on Instagram, and let's get started. So the first thing I want to say is that if you suffer from anxiety, you're completely not alone, because I do too, and I've suffered from anxiety for probably like the best part of my life. So I have significant experience with both living with anxiety and trying to be productive with anxiety, and I have learned ways to make my weird brain work for me. And the first thing to do is acknowledge that you have like anxiety, because the first thing in any situation is self-reflection. I always go to this first. Like, if you've been watching my channel, guys, you know me. I'm always going to tell you to self-reflect. Like, get in there and self-reflect. Okay? So, accept that anxiety is a natural part of life. There's a difference between, oh, I feel anxious sometimes, and I have constant anxiety, like, clinically, and it is affecting my life to a significant degree. I have the latter. I'm, like, medicated and so forth. But regardless, if you experience anxiety sometimes, or whether it's a chronic part of your life, some of these tips can apply to you. This is kind of more directed at you if it's like chronic and it's something that is affecting you a lot day to day, but regardless, if you experience anxiety, welcome. It's something that can be important to you. It can signal, it can signal discomfort in a situation. It can signal that something bad is happening, like you might be about to experience trauma. But for a lot of us who suffer with like chronic anxiety, it can be sort of basically like an overactive trigger, if that makes sense. Like your brain is overreacting to things, and it's trying to keep you safe, but your brain doesn't realise that the things it's trying to keep you safe from are not actually threats, and therefore you feel anxious all the time when there's usually nothing to worry about. So instead of fighting against it, acknowledge it without judgment, because anxiety, it's a feeling, okay? Like it's a mental health problem. Like it's morally neutral. Like you're not a bad person for having anxiety. Anxiety just is. Like, would you judge someone for having a broken leg? Like, you go to see your friend in hospital and they've got a broken leg and they're like, oh my gosh, you're a bad person because you got a broken leg. Like, who would say that? That's obviously cruel and ridiculous. Nobody would say that. So don't judge yourself for having anxiety, because it's just the same as having a broken leg. And again, it's a feeling. Feelings are neutral. Like, they just are, okay? The next thing I'm going to say, like, implement strategies to manage your anxiety. So obviously for me that looks like medication and meditation, therapy, it looks like journaling, it looks like music, it looks like self-care. It can look like anything, any of those or none of those, or something entirely different for you. But just make sure that you're not sort of like leaving your anxiety unchecked, because eventually it will devour you, and I've been there and it's not pretty. So yeah, don't do that. But the next thing I want to say is use your anxiety as motivation, because I have never, and I repeat never, like had more energy than nervous energy. Like, nervous energy has me running around like a fucking hamster, like trying to get all of my things done. Nervous energy has me doing 4 things at once. Like, it has me being extremely productive. And that is like probably the only silver lining to my anxiety, is the sheer ridiculous levels of productivity that I can achieve when I'm in like a sort of anxious state. I'm like, I've got to do all of these things, I've got to do them all now, and I've got to do them all perfect. Like, yes, that causes me an immense amount of stress, but also I do all of the things. So channel the energy from that anxiety into motivation. It can, anxiety comes with a heightened sense of alertness. You might pay more attention to detail. You can really use this to your advantage by sort of taking positive action towards your goals. At least that way, if you're managing your anxiety with like medication or therapy or whatever, and you've still got some like leftover pent up energy, using it towards something positive can actually really help calm you. Like, for example, sometimes the only thing that will fix my anxiety is if I literally like sit down for like 4 hours and I just work on my assignment, because the cause of my anxiety at that moment is the assignment. And when I get it done, I'm like, oh, okay, I did a good job, now I can rest. So sometimes you sort of have to like trick your brain, except it's not really tricking your brain, because you're doing what your brain wants you to do, kind of. You're dealing with the threat, the assignment, and it's, yeah. So what I'm saying is channel that like nervous energy into something positive, and you will start to see positive changes. Okay, the other thing that I want to say is kind of related to this is like challenging and reframing those anxious thoughts. So instead of like focusing on shit, what if I fail? Like, what if I fail? And that's something I hear a lot is like people are like, oh, anxiety paralyzes me. Like, I don't know how you get so much stuff done with anxiety because like, what if I fail? And I get that to an extent as well. But I try and reframe these as sort of opportunities for learning, and I've like tried so many goals and I've failed at so many of them. Obviously I've succeeded at the majority, but like I failed at so many goals because I've tried loads of different things that I don't see failure as necessarily a bad thing anymore. It's just a learning point, and I've made this point like loads of times in my other videos, but like I'm not as afraid to fail as I once was. Like I'm still terrified of it, especially if it's something big, but even though I do fail, I know that I can learn something from that, so I'm not as scared of it, if that makes sense. Okay, so get yourself a routine. Get yourself a routine that includes self-care. It includes all of the mitigation strategies that you have for anxiety, and it includes focus time where you can like burn through some of that negative energy, putting it into positive work. So get yourself a schedule. I found that a structure really helps with my anxiety because I know exactly what I'm doing next. The certainty really helps me. So get yourself some certainty. Like, you owe it to yourself to have a really structured and like positive schedule that's really supportive of you. So get yourself a positive schedule, okay? Learn some stress management. I've talked a little bit about meditation, I've talked about therapy, I've talked about journaling and music. Whatever works for you. Like, it could be basket weaving, it could be like learning to do a headstand. Like, please don't hurt yourself, but you know, it could be anything. And as long as you're like taking care of yourself within that activity, like, get a hobby, guys. It can be really calming, and also it can make you feel like you have some kind of purpose outside of work, which is, it's good when you otherwise feel that your anxiety is like singularly work. Also, anxiety often stems from like worrying about the future, and if you are channeling that negative energy into working on your future goals, then you can see tangibly that your future is like, it is transforming into something better before your eyes, and that can actually be really, I don't want to say encouraging, but yeah, encouraging, I guess. It can be really encouraging that you've just sort of transformed that, like, what, I mean, some people like would see it as a complete setback, and sometimes it can be. Like, you've transformed an obstacle, a setback, into something that's actually positive and it's pushing you forward, and that's what this video is entirely about. So stay in the present, but also use your anxiety to fuel the planning side of you, to fuel sort of like the person who goes places and gets stuff done, and the person who's curious and studies hard and works hard, and the person who's motivated to be in it for the long term so they take care of themselves so they don't burn out, okay? Because I know anxiety can often lead to burnout. I've been there many times. It is not worth it because you are not productive when you're burnt out, okay? So tell your anxiety that, and tell it that a nap is going to be worth it in the long run, okay? So use anxiety, basically, what I'm saying, as a signal to take positive action. If a situation is causing you anxiety, ask yourself why. Is it because you're seeing a threat where there isn't one, or is it because there's something you need to take action on and you know that there's something you need to take action on? If you're seeing a threat where there isn't one, therapy. If you're seeing like something you need to take action on, use that energy positively. Invest it in the task that you need to do. Yeah, so what I'm saying is basically use anxiety as a way to fuel positive action, because all that energy's got to go somewhere, guys, and I would rather that it went into achieving your goals and making your life better. That is how I've used it anyway, okay? That is all for this video. If you're not already subscribed, make sure to do that. Give this video a big thumbs up, follow me on Instagram, and I will see you very soon. Okay, bye!